Again, number 12 today. We got one more week left. We got next Tuesday in pads, Thursday in spiders, and scrimmage on Saturday. So, I really like where we are after 12. It was a tough practice today. It was, probably 3 live periods, physical. Had a lot of recruits here. Recruits are like, Coach, I was cranked up now. We've probably had more offered players here this spring than I've seen, since I've got here. I mean, we've surpassed everything as far as the numbers go, as far as just, guys that we've offered and guys that have been here. So it's always a good sign when they're here and keep coming back and love watching our practices. So, questions?
I was going to actually ask you about that. I know you obviously can't get into specifics, but this spring seems like one of your most successful springs in terms of, like you mentioned, the visitors, the commitments, all those things. Why do you feel like it's rolling right now?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I was driving in thinking about, like, God, all these guys I got to meet with this afternoon. And it's just like the list goes on. It's two-sided. No injury report on this game. Is it 20 wins in 2 seasons? Is it, pro days, a draft? I don't know what it is, but Coach, I keep telling our coaches, great job getting them on campus, because if we get them here unofficially, we got a heck of a lot better chance of, getting them to commit someday. Okay, it's hard to get those guys that didn't take the time, to pay their own way to come visit Pitt. And these guys, we got guys from Florida, Texas, all over the place. Illinois today, we got guys from everywhere.
Pat, I was reading about Hugh Freeze's proposal about instead of having a spring game, you play the top FBS team would play a top FCS team in state. Mm-hmm. Would you like to play a game rather than?
I would love to do that. I mean, I just think I've said that a couple of years ago, and I'd like to do it for the players' health and safety. Today when we go, or Saturday when we went, when I say we got 130 plays, it's 22 players going, each snap. You're risking an injury every snap you go out there. So when you talk 130 plays, and you times that, every one of those plays times 20, 130 times 22, the chance of injury, increase. But when you got just 11 guys out there going against another opponent in a spring scrimmage, I think spring games would be a lot more fun. Just make it a spring game. You get to go, play a team on on your spring game, set it up and do it. At Michigan State, we did it in the summer, and we're not allowed to set it up. But in the summer, we used to get Grand Valley and Michigan State used to do 7-on-7. As long as we set up as coaches, 2 quarterbacks got together and said, "Hey, come on over. Hey, next week we'll come to you." What better? So we've done something like that. Kirk Cousins used to set that up with the quarterback over there, and it's good stuff.
Is there enough support among guys like you to do that?
I have no idea. I haven't thought about it. Just trying to see if we get a first down, see if we get off the field on 3rd down, and see if we get someone to come to Pitt. So, they don't listen to us anyway, so it doesn't matter. They do stuff. Some of the new recruiting rules out there, unlimited calls to, and contacts now with underclassmen. Like, there's not enough time in the day to do all that stuff. So phone calls can now start, it sounds like, in June. Like, we have nothing else to do in June. We're going to call in 2025 guys. I don't know where we're going to find the time. So,
why do you think that process has sped up so much?
The recruiting process?
Yeah.
The reason that it's speeding up and that they're speeding it up even more, I think, overall the ACC coaches have had enough. We voted to go ahead and speed it up. And I'm not a proponent of it, but we just kind of take a vote as ACC coaches, and we said just speed it up because everybody's, cheating anyway. They're making the phone calls anyway, right? So now, might as well make it legalized. At least not, if we're going to do things the right way and they're going to cheat, then what are you going to do? So we're getting controversial here. I probably should shut up.
When it comes to, you talked about the flux of how many recruits you had just today, but really throughout the spring, how much of a factor do you think, now that we're, I guess, fully out of the pandemic and all the restrictions are starting to be lifted and more people are maybe more adept to go travel, how much do you think that plays a factor into it?
Well, I hope it doesn't play out the restrictions and all that. Like, Jerry hasn't worn a mask for 2 years. I think we were out of the office for 2 weeks or 2 months, maybe a month and a half, and we were back. So that's been long gone, for us here down on the south side. So I don't know. I don't think that had anything to do with it.
Just looking at the guy, and I know you're not allowed to talk about them, but half of your verbal commitments are from the state of Pennsylvania. Do you feel like your program's success in this, past 2-3 years, like maybe gained a lot of attraction back in this state?
I think so. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think it gains attraction, in state and out of state as well. I think, nationally, I think people start to go, whoa, look what they're doing, and so I think there's no question that's a factor.
Is the administration putting more emphasis on recruiting since you've been here? I mean, are they giving you more resources since 2015?
I don't know what our recruiting budget is. We just do what we need to do. You know what I'm saying?
You don't know what your recruiting budget
No, I don't look at the budget. I just keep doing what we need to do.
What if you go over?
Heather's never said, well, they have never said you went over. Sorry, there's no more visits this weekend. So when you talk about the administration, Heather's been awesome. The chancellor's been awesome, and I'm sure we stay under budget, but I'm conscious of what we're doing. Not wasting stuff, doing what we need to do. But no one's made a push. Hey, let's start recruiting harder. No, we've been doing whatever we need to do.
Does the increase of Pennsylvania guys, especially with you guys' recent success and that attraction to you guys, does that change up any strategies as far as how you divvy up the work of recruiting and any targets the guys go after?
Not really, because we got different coaches in different areas of the state of Pennsylvania. But then we position recruit. So if it's a linebacker and Manlack is not in the state of Pennsylvania, he's now in the state of Pennsylvania. So we'll go from area recruiting to positional recruiting, and the coordinators obviously get involved. So it's multiple relationships with all these kids, and again, success in the state of Pennsylvania, all depends on how many there are. We're not going to just take as many as we can from PA. They got to be good enough to help us win a championship.
How's Frank been as far as being recruiting help?
Frank, Coach Signetti?
Yeah.
Coach Signetti to you.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. I'm like, Frank. I'm like, who's Frank? No, he's been awesome. He's been awesome. We've gotten some guys out of the East Coast. He's, hits the Massachusetts. He's got great jersey ties, but no, he's been good.
Not just here, but elsewhere. Offensive coordinators aren't always known as active recruiters. Sometimes those guys will just quarterbacks and that's it, or they'll just stand pat. But it seems like Frank's maybe a little more active, a little more aggressive than typical.
Yeah. Hopefully all our guys are. Bates is aggressive. I think to be a college football coach and be a coordinator, you better be active recruiting. Anybody that doesn't have an active guy on the road recruiting, and sometimes you land one. Maybe we didn't have one in the past, but we got guys that are active on the road recruiting, and if they're not, we're going to push them to be as active as we can get them, depending on their age and all that stuff. But, you have to be active. When I was a coordinator for 11 years with Antonio, we started off my first year in 2004, and he said, I don't want you to have an area. I just want you to go see all the top players. I said, Coach, I need one area. So he gave me Northeast Ohio. So I recruited Northeast Ohio my first year at Cincinnati. And then, the next year I had Northeast Ohio and the whole state of New Jersey. And then I had this whole state of New Jersey, Maryland, and D.C. Then I had the whole Space Coast. And that was my recruiting area. And, the last, probably 9 years. So, you have to have a coordinator recruit.
Do you have to have dedicated people to watch the transfer portal for guys who aren't necessarily even in it yet, where you're like, hey, we need to watch to see if certain guys might come available who we have a relationship with? It'd
be nice if you guys could keep an ear to the ground and find out who those guys are. But that's almost like tampering, and that's it's a violation. We're not doing that. It'd be nice to have 10 guys to say, hey, call a high school coach, see if that guy's interested and all that. But that's awesome. That's crazy. It's not the right way to do things. When the portal opens up, when the kid goes in the portal, then we'll know about him. We got resources to do that, but we don't have a whole office attributed to, hey, let's check out the FCS rosters, find out where the All-American kids are. There's some people doing that, which is it's not good.
Do you have more employees working on recruiting than you had in 2015?
And speaking of this recruiting, and you're talking about, Jerry, your question about spring games against an FCS opponent. Imagine if we played Duquesne and all of a sudden they had a great wideout. Okay? Think about that, and all of a sudden we're like, ooh, let's take that guy after this game. That's not good. So there's some things that we've messed up in college football now that would probably make a lot of coaches go, where are you doing this? You ain't gonna see my guys. So I like to get through the year at least with them before you steal them. Make sense, Jerry?
Yeah, sure.
Have you noticed the balance between recruiting and all this preparation work you're doing throughout the spring? Have you noticed that become more skewed one way or another, or more evened out? How do you figure that balance comes into play?
The balance is messing me up. That's probably why I said it's a long day. The first couple of years, I have a couple of recruits talk to them after practice, and then get in and watch tape with the offense or defense. But Graham is bugging the heck out of me, and that's why he's hovering around to make sure he's got me working. So he's keeping me working, which means I don't get to watch as much tape with the offense or defense, so then I got to do it on my own afterwards. So.
else?
One more, about a week and some change away from the spring game. What are you looking for from your team in these final few practices?
Stay healthy. I mean, I feel good with where we are right now. We may change the spring game. I don't know if there'll be a draft or not. We're thinking about changing it up a little bit just to change it up. Obviously, it'll be on TV and all that stuff. So we're debating on that. But I just want to stay healthy, and I just want to continue to try to get better every day. I mean, that's what we do. The guys that need more work, get them work. The guys that don't need as much work, again, it really is one more good practice and then a spring game.
Did you say no scrimmage this Saturday?
No scrimmage. It's Easter. Happy Easter. Yeah, we give the guys off. There's a lot of people practicing around the country on Saturday. Matter of fact, a couple of guys said they had scrimmages they had to work this weekend. I'm like, what? You got to work a scrimmage on Saturday before Easter? Our guys know they're off today. After this practice, they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off and try to enjoy the holiday.